Hello, this is Josephine Halpin-Montvidas, Career Counselor at the Middle Country Public Library in Center Reach, New York. Today's presentation is Resume and Job Interview Tips for New Immigrants. I'm going to be talking about resume preparation, cover letter preparation, and job interview techniques, as well as job postings. So welcome to the United States. So first of all, what is a resume? A resume is a summary of your personal data, your educational background, your training, basically your experience and qualifications, and any of your achievements and highlights. Your resume should touch on all things that influence your qualifications for a particular position or type of employment. It's an advertisement to prospective employers about who you are. It should set you apart from other candidates in the job market. The purpose of the resume is to provide a summary of your skills, abilities, and accomplishments. It's an advertisement of who you are and also a snapshot, capturizing and emphasizing your interest in securing a job interview. It's your primary tool in your job search. So how does someone begin a resume? First of all, you want to provide your first name and last name, a cell number, either a LinkedIn account, and email. Let me just tell you for a moment that your cell number, the greeting, and your email account should all be very business appropriate. If you have something that's a little bit irrelevant to a job search, I don't recommend it. So always develop a LinkedIn account or an email account that's business appropriate. So you want to begin with your list of accomplishments and personal qualities. With a chronological resume, the individual would begin with their contact information and with their work history, beginning with their most recent job, but also including their training, any volunteer or community service work, and any extracurricular activities. You would want to evaluate the requirements of the new job for which the position you're applying for, and always compare the skills required with your background and indicate how demonstrated those skills are and are relevant to the job. You want to apply for jobs that you have the closest fit and interest. So there's frequently asked questions about putting a resume together. These 6 questions that I have listed, the first one is, how long should my resume be? Should I include personal information on the resume? What name should I use for my resume? Should I include my immigration status? Also, should I include experience from my home country? And should I include that I'm taking English classes or have done in the past? So I'm going to respond to each of those questions in more detail. So how long should my resume be? If you can, keep your resume to 1 page if you have 7 years of experience or less. However, if you have more than 7 years of work experience, you may want to go on to a 2nd page. Should you include personal information? No, do not include a photograph of yourself or any personal information, such as your age, your race, your marital status, or your religious affiliation. What name should you use? Use the name that you're most comfortable with and use it consistently throughout your job search. It doesn't have to be your legal name, but you must always put your first name first and then your last name. For example, I would put my first name, Josephine, and then my last name, Montvidas, on the resume. What about including your immigration status? That's optional, so some individuals may want to include their immigration status on the resume, and some individuals may not want to. Should you include experience from your country before you came to the United States? If your work history is short, you probably want to include everything that's relevant. If you have a longer work history, you can leave out jobs and experiences that are not relevant to that position. Should you include English classes? There's many different thoughts on this, and some individuals I have researched recommend that you don't include the English classes or any unrelated courses. And the reason is some employers may assume you do not speak English well enough for the job, and they may be a little hesitant. Instead, list the courses that are relevant or related to your field. So in the United States, basically there's two very common resumes. It's the chronological and the functional. So what is the difference? The chronological and functional resumes are two of the most commonly used resumes among job candidates in the United States. However, there's several differences between these two resumes, and knowing the differences can help you determine which one is best for your own situation. A chronological resume includes a career summary or a career profile at the start of the resume to state the applicant's purpose or career goals. Most people then would follow through either with their employment history and beginning with the most recent and working back through the years, as well as their educational information, some skills, any certifications, or any other qualifications that make them an ideal candidate for the position that they're applying to. A functional resume is a resume that highlights a candidate's skills, and those are skills that the individual may want to transfer from one industry to another, but those skills are very relevant to that new industry that they're exploring. The functional resume groups a candidate's experience under skills or categories of skills. This allows the employers to focus on the candidate's qualification, such as any technical or any soft skills that are required for the job. I also recommend that you keep the fonts simple. I would recommend that you would use Arial or Times New Roman, and the font sizes should be between 9 to 12. You may also want to bold and underline certain elements or headings on your resume. So I'm going to show you some example of a chronological resume. This resume is one page. The person has their first name and then their last name, a cell number, and their email. And notice that the email is very business appropriate. They're indicating through the profile or the career summary that they have 3 years of clinical experience. They specialized in patient care. They have good communication skills. They are compassionate towards working with elderly patients. Then they list their experience, which is in bold, with their job title, the name of their employer, and the city and state that they worked at. To the right of it, they've included the dates of employment. And then they indicate very strong statements using action words to describe their responsibilities. Please note that the individuals, when they're writing resumes, you don't want to use any pronouns. You don't want to use the words I, me, he, or they. You want to start out with some very strong action verbs that can get you started describing your work responsibilities. For example, in this resume, the individual, when they worked at Right at Home, they've indicated they supported patients with activities of daily living, and they list that, how they monitored the residents or patients, how they recorded the vital signs and reported any documents to the registered nurses. Then they're also listing the prior job that they had before they went to Right at Home. They worked as a daycare attendant. They list the name of the employer and again the location of the employer and the dates to the right. At the end of the resume, they are including their certifications, what they earned, and the time it took for them to complete the program, and any additional certification that would be relevant to that job that they're seeking. In addition, they're listing their high school diploma that they achieved in June of 2015. This is another example of a chronological resume. the individual has stated his first name and last name, his contact information, but he has decided he wants to include his immigration status, which is fine. As I mentioned before, that's totally optional. Then he went to state or list a summary, and he also is listing his work experience and the dates. He's describing his experience as a senior software development engineer in Pakistan with some very well described and articulated statements of his responsibilities. He used strong action verbs such as program well designed, develop software solutions, provided ongoing maintenance support, prepared and installed solutions, improved operations. Underneath that, he's indicated what his technical skills are that are probably very critical to the type of job that he's seeking. He's listed those technical skills as well as his education, what degree he received from what university. And then in addition, he also listed a certification of a software master certification that he achieved. So a functional resume, as I said a little earlier, is really highlighting the individual skills that the person wants to transfer to another industry. So for example, on this resume, the person's name is stated, her contact information with her cell number, as well as the email. She's giving a strong summary that they worked as a customer service representative and very strong experience with resolving customer inquiries. Then she lists her skills, such as process streamlining, and she's giving relevancy of what that skill is, that she created customer service email scripts. Also, the next skill is complaint resolution and service-based selling. I just want to point out on this resume, the individual has stated some quantifiable results, and employers like to see that, what you can do for them. All right, so they've clearly indicated this on this resume. For example, with complaint resolution, she's indicated that she worked an average or answered an average of 50 calls a day. She achieved 97% customer satisfaction, okay, and that she also exceeded application targets by 10%. At the end of her resume, or near the end, she's indicating where she went to school and her experience. She does have a second-page resume, and if you do, that's fine. But please remember to include your first name, your last name, as well as your contact information. At the end of the resume, she's listing her education, because what she's doing is illustrating to a prospective employer what her skills are and how she can be of value to an employer. So what is the goal of a resume? Is to get an interview. That's the whole goal of the resume. It doesn't get you the job, but it will get you the interview. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about cover letters. Some employers will require a cover letter, some don't. But it serves as an introduction to your resume. It's specific to a position and the company. You want to convince the employer of two things. Number one, that you're a good match with what you're looking for, and it will add value to their organization. And the second thing is you've done your research and you believe that this job and organization are a right fit. So it would be a win-win for both. So I do want to caution you that you must follow the employee's instructions with respect to a cover letter. So carefully review and follow the application instructions. If the instructions specify resume only, do not send a cover letter. If a cover letter is optional or you're given a choice, write and submit a cover letter. And why? Because the risk is greater in not writing one. So if an individual does take the time because it's optional to submit the resume, and they have completed one that's well written and articulates why they are interested in the position and how they will be positive and be a positive influence to impact the company. Most likely the candidate that did do the cover letter, even if it was optional, will be extended a job interview. So here I have an example of a business cover letter that's going to be sent through the mail. The person has provided their name, first name, last name, the city and state they live in, their cell number or landline, and their email account. And again, their email is very business appropriate. They've listed the date that they're writing the cover letter and to a particular person. Now, I know in today's job market, not everybody provides the name. Sometimes there might be only their initials, and we don't know if you're writing to the human resources manager, if it's a man or a woman. If you could find out, is it Mr. Geraci or Ms. Geraci, that's fine. If you cannot find out information, you can always send the letter to Dear Hiring Manager or Dear Manager. But if you do have a name, you want to address it at the beginning of the cover letter. This cover letter also goes on to ask the employer to accept the resume and application for the call center representative at the employer's name, which is Bill State Company. What they're also indicating in the cover letter is how they have achieved some wonderful results. And again, this individual or applicant is illustrating that they have some quantifiable results that this employer, the new employer, may be interested in, such as customer service rating was at 98% over 2 years, resolved 94% of customer issues, which reduced the caseload for the call center manager. And they also had the lowest turnover rate in 2022. They are closing the cover letter by letting them know they would be looking forward to discussing the position in more detail, and then also including thanking for their time and consideration. You can close the cover letter either with the traditional sincerely, or if you want to give it a little more emphasis or punch, you may want to sign off with great interest. This is another example of a cover letter, and it's an email cover letter. Again, they're writing to a specific person, and they're describing what the job title is at the company. They're also letting them know about their extensive background and able to resolve issues quickly, accurate resolution to customer concerns, expertise in complex business issues, how they created and maintained 25 to 30% margin, all right? Now, this individual is taking the initiative to contact the employer on a certain day. They're saying they will contact them on June 12th, whatever the day may be, to arrange an interview. Then they're thanking them for their time and consideration, and then closing, again, with sincerely, with great interest, and with some contact information. If you were going to state in your cover letter that you will be reaching out to that employer on a specific date, please follow through. All right, because this way it would show the prospective employer that you really have a strong level of interest and you are very motivated to be considered for a job interview. So what's a job posting and why is it so important? So job postings are also called a job listing or job description. It's information that the employer is sharing about an open position. It could be posted on LinkedIn, it could be posted on the employer's website or any job board. It usually gives details about the job and company, everything the employer is looking for in that hire, and specifics about the application process. So to take a look at the job description, you want to really take a close look at what are the responsibilities. What is the education or training required? Did they indicate what the pay range is? Some employers will, some will not. What is the work environment? Some job postings I read these days will mention there is a good balance of a work life at so-and-so company. Also, where is the job located? Is it a job that you have a car or access to? Or if you need to rely on public transportation, is that job realistic for you to get to if you are selected for an interview and then offered the job? So here I have a simple example of a job posting. It's an office clerk in Smithtown, New York at Career Strategies. Right away, the employer has indicated what the salary is on an hourly basis, which is full-time. They're indicating the position would pay from $16 to $19 an hour. Then they're giving a snapshot statement of what the duties are, such as performing clerical duties, photocopying, scanning, faxing, data entry. The individual that's hired would also be responsible for organizing physical and digital files. The qualifications are clearly stated. They're looking for an individual that has prior office clerk or a similar clerical role, that they should be proficient in Microsoft Office Suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And they're also indicating at the end of the job posting how to apply for the position. They're asking the applicants to submit their resume along with the cover letter detailing their relevant experience to the position and why they're interested in the job. They say they're looking forward to reviewing the application and cover letter and resume, and also to send the resume and the cover letter to bjones@careerstrategies.com. So preparing for the interview, that's very critical, because once you've been selected for the interview, you want to get to the next step and be well prepared for the interview. So my strong recommendation is to research the position and organization. Be very familiar with their mission is, their goal is, what their products are before the interview. You want to familiarize yourself with the job responsibilities and requirements of the job. Review your application and resume and or cover letter, and be prepared to discuss your past accomplishments with specific information towards the position requirements. You want to practice interviewing. Also, ask for specifics regarding the time, the date, the location, the contact person or the POC, as well as any logistic details. If it's a position and you're going to be driving to the location, sometimes there is designated parking for visitors. Also, you want to know what entrance to use. Are you going to the front of the building? Is the door that you should be going through to the side or the back? So you really want to get all the logistics about the employer and where they're located. For the interview, you want to plan to arrive early. Ensure you know the check-in procedures. And I would say anywhere from maybe 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. So if your interview is at 10 a.m. in the morning, planning to arrive at 9:45 or 9:50, that's fine. Remember, you get one chance to make a first impression. And let me just give you this suggestion. I would suggest whoever you meet at the area that you've checked into, whether it's a greeter, whether it's a security guard, or a receptionist, please be polite, be friendly, have a very pleasant expression on your face. Ask them, how was your morning? But of course, give your full name and that you have an interview appointment. So you want to make a good impression, again, to that greeter, to that security guard, or to that receptionist. Because I will tell you, that individual, whoever it is, will go back to that hiring manager and say, Mr. Jones, I just greeted Bob Smith and he was so polite and engaging and has a very friendly demeanor. So once you get into the interview, please listen carefully to each question, focus on your achievements, and give examples of your knowledge, skills, and abilities that fit the job that you're interviewing for. Always remain positive. Do not provide any negative comments about any past employers. All right? Beware of your body language and your tone of voice. So I always suggest that you sit up straight, have your hands folded, try to make as much good eye contact as you possibly can. If you bring a little notebook with you, you can always ask the interviewer, is it all right if I can take a few notes? Just have their permission beforehand. Most individuals would say, yes, that's fine. Some employers may also give you a handout about the company in addition to what's posted on their website. Before you leave the organization, ask about any final questions. What is the next step in the selection process? If they're letting you know that they're going to be interviewing, let's say for the next week and a half, tell them thank you, I'm glad you told me about that, and remind them that you are very interested about the position. Always thank the interviewer for the opportunity of the interview. So after the interview, if any additional information is requested, any transcripts that might be, or any other documents that they're looking for, try to get to them as soon as possible. I always suggest that you send a thank you letter, and you could do it with an email. And I do suggest that you get that email thank you out within 24 hours or less. In the past, I have met some different applicants that have told me, then I sent the thank you letter 10 days later and I didn't get the job. And I always try to guide individuals that it's best to get the thank you letter out within 24 hours or sooner. This way, it's a reminder to the employer that you are very interested in the position, and again, they have some documentation, they have something in front of them that you are interested in the job. Remember to be patient. The hiring process can take time. You can follow up with the point of contact individual if you haven't been contacted within the established time frame, but you don't want to reach out to them before that time frame. And most employers will get back to you and let you know whether you're going to have a second interview or they have selected another candidate.